will now be recorded.
Good afternoon to all. Today is the third lecture in our autoimmune disease series. For this session, we have an eminent academician, clinician and researcher, Dr. Vishnu Jogrekar sir. Sir is a retired professor of Ayurveda. He has worked in various capacities at Tirak Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya, Pune. He has done MD in two specialties, Kai Chikitsa and Agada Tantra. He has taught many subjects in his long academic career. In addition to Kai Chikitsa and Agada Tantra, he has taught Sanskrit, Padartha Vignan, Swastha Vritta, Manas Rog, research methodology and medical statistics, medical education, technology and clinical data management. He has been working as editorial and review board member of JAIM and JOAY. He was executive editor of textbook of Agada Tantra, which was sponsored by Ministry of Ayush. He was instrumental in designing and implementing an ambitious program called Vaidya Scientist Fellowship Program. Currently, he is an advisor to Ayush chair at CCI Savitribai Phule Pune University. He is the chairman of Kshamata Vardhini LLP, a startup company engaged in capacity building events in health sector. With this brief introduction, I request sir to start his session. Thank you. Sir, please start.
Thank you, Jinmay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in today's lecture, I am going to elaborate on dosha aushadha nirupana in autoimmune diseases. At the start, I would like to bow to my Paratpara Guru, that is third generation Guru, rather first generation Guru, Vaidya Bhushan Purushottam Shastri Nanal, then Vaidya Mama Gokhale, who was the disciple of Vaidya Nanal, then my Guru, Vaidya Yashwant Govind Joshi, who wrote Yashwanta Tika for Charak Samhita and his Yashwanta Tika on Ashtanga Hruday is is in print and it will be published shortly. I also want to bow to many other people, starting from Vaidya Madhav Kolhatkar. All these people taught me how to gain knowledge from the whole world. It is said in Charak Samhita that Krutsno hi loko buddhimatam acharyaha shatruscha abuddhimatam. All these gurus have made me capable of learning from everything. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Shreyas E-Learning Academy for giving me this opportunity, specifically Dr. Chinmay Phondekar. Then Liefeng Wang Research Center of Biological Therapy, Institute of Translational Hepatology, Beijing. Fu Sheng Wang Research Center Biological Therapy, Institute of Translational Hepatology, Beijing. M. Garrick Gershwin, Division of Rheumatology, Allergy and Clinical Immunology, University of California at Davis School of Medicine, Davis, California, USA. And Dr. Rajgopal Krishnan, who is an oncologist. All these people have helped me with the material which I have borrowed from them. So I would like to acknowledge all these people. Now, this lecture will be in three parts. First will be a background of autoimmune diseases overview. Then second section will be dosha nirupan, and third section will be aushadha nirupan. The background is heavily borrowed from Human Autoimmune Diseases, a comprehensive update, a paper published in Journal of Internal Medicine by Wang et al. The names mentioned in the acknowledgements. The timeline of autoimmune diseases, recognition of autoimmune diseases, we can say, is as follows. In 1948, Macfarlane Burnett of Australia proposed that immunological inertness to self or tolerance is an important entity which is a characteristic acquired in development. To sustain life, it is essential that we preserve ourselves and we don't destroy ourselves. And for that purpose, inertness to self or tolerance to self antigens is an essential requirement that was first proposed by Macfarlane Burnett. After that, in 1953, Sir Peter Medawar and his colleagues experimentally demonstrated the ability to induce immune tolerance in inbred mice. In 1959, New Zealand black mouse was the first murine model of autoimmunity which was described. Subsequently, thyroid and autoantibodies were demonstrated, and autoimmune thyroiditis became the prototype of autoimmune diseases. More than 100 autoimmune diseases are currently under study, recorded, documented, and they have some common features. The important concepts involved in autoimmunity are central tolerance, peripheral energy, and T regulatory cells or trains. Then homeostasis produced by cytokines, chemokines, and their cognate receptors. I am not going into many details of these concepts as they will be described by other speakers from modern medicine in a much better manner. Whenever we look at any disease, we should look at its epidemiology. How it is spread, who are suffering from that. That kind of background data is required to tackle any disease. So incidence and prevalence of autoimmune diseases varies with age, gender, ethnicity, and many other demographic features. different diseases have their own characteristics, age of onset. It is not that all autoimmune diseases occur in childhood or all in adult age or old age. Each disease has a different age of onset. Prevalence is seen to be increased in first degree relatives and even higher in monozygotic twins. That points to bija dushti or genetic etiological factor. Increased frequency in women with a female to male ratio ranges from 10 to 1 to 1 to 1. So in most of the autoimmune diseases, we see that more women suffer from autoimmune diseases. The exception is Crohn's disease, which has slightly more population of males affected, 1 to 1.2. Means for every 10 women of Crohn's disease, we have 12 men from Crohn's disease. Now, here is a table which gives us data about age, sex, then monozygotic twin concordance, means genetic influence, we can say, and then the regional prevalence, cases per 10,000 per 100,000 population. 1 lakh persons suffering from disease in 1 lakh population, per 1 lakh population. So now here we can see that age of onset ranges from 2 to 80 also. In sex ratio, as I have already told you, females outnumber men, particularly for type 2 autoimmune hepatitis and primary biliary cirrhosis. Graves' disease is highlighted because it is the disease which is more predominant in Asia, whereas other diseases are more predominant in Europe or US. There is another list of these diseases. Again, Sjogren's syndrome and systemic lupus erythematosus. These are heavily dominated by females. It means females suffer more from these diseases, and out of them, Sjogren's syndrome is more prevalent in Asia region. So, development of an immune disease requires a genetic predisposition or bija dushti as abhyantara hetu, then environmental factors, that is bahya hetu, then trigger to pathways of immunities, something called as nimitta karan, and then it results in tissue destruction or dhatu kshaya. So these 4 important factors should always be considered in autoimmune disorders. The oncologist Dr. Rajagopal Krishnan, this is an excerpt from his draft paper, and he is quoting Vagbhata, Shuddha Dehasya Prasadam Labhate Manaha. Immune system is modulated or rebooted body itself from the symptoms. The importance of Shodhana Chikitsa and Rasayana Chikitsa is highlighted by an oncologist, a modern medical oncologist. So now even modern medicine is also turning towards Ayurveda for seeking a solution to these phenomena. There are three different mechanisms by which autoimmunity occurs. First mechanism is molecular mimicry. There are sequence similarities between pathogen-derived peptides and self-peptides. Means infection occurs and that infection has some peptides for which immune reaction takes place, antigen-antibody reaction takes place. But these peptides are very similar to our own peptides. This is called as molecular mimicry. And when that happens, the T cells which produce antibodies, they produce such antibodies which are also acting on self peptides, our own peptides. And these antibodies are called autoantibodies. These are the diseases commonly found which show molecular mimicry as a mechanism. Acute rheumatic fever, primary biliary cirrhosis, gastric autoimmunity, systemic sclerosis, systemic lupus erythematosus, multiple sclerosis, and type 1 diabetes. And for these, the organisms responsible are a mixed lot. Some are gram positive, some are gram negative, some like Helicobacter pylori flourish in acidic environment. Viruses are ubiquitous. So all kinds of infections are possible, and all these infectious agents produce peptides which are very similar to human peptides, and therefore the body will react to these infections and in the process develop the antibodies which are fatal or destructive for our own body parts. Second mechanism is epitope spreading, and what is that? It changes from primary epitope to other epitopes. Mainly autoimmune hepatitis, systemic lupus erythematosus, multiple sclerosis, rheumatic arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, then systemic lupus erythematosus. Here what happens is epitopes spread. Now most of Ayurvedic people are not very aware of what is an epitope and how its spreading will cause autoimmunity. So I am rapidly going through the explanation of epitopes. Epitope is also known as antigenic determinant, is the part of antigen that is recognized by immune system. Just like we recognize a car by its shape and by its logo, and we can immediately recognize whether it is a Maruti or whether it is Honda or whatever make it is. In the same way, epitopes are the features by which immune system recognizes an antigen. B cells or T cells produce the antibodies against by recognizing these antigens, and the recognition region is called as epitope. So epitope is specific piece of antigen to which antibody binds. Part of antibody that binds to epitope is called as paratrope. So there is antigen and there is antibody. Antigen has a part by which immune system will recognize it, that is called as epitope, and antibody will have a part which will attach to the epitope, and that part is called as paratrope. Epitopes are usually non-self proteins because they are from antigens. Sequences derived from host are also epitopes, autoantigens. There are T cell epitopes presented on the surface of. Hello? Hello? Okay, I will continue. So T cell epitopes presented on the surface of antigen presenting cell bound to major histocompatibility complex or MHC. Professional antigen presenting cells are specialized to present MHC class 2 peptides. Nucleated somatic cells present MHC class 1 peptides. Class 1 molecules are short peptides. Class 2 molecules, epitopes, are longer peptides. Molecular biology knowledge is required to understand these classifications. Non-classical MHC molecules also present non-peptidic epitopes such as glycolipids. Means it is not just proteins, it may be glycolipids also. These are T cell epitopes or cells which originate from thymus are called as T cells. And hello?
चौसष्ट जीबीचा थोडी संपतच नाही आला काय माझ्याकडे मला 10 जीबीचा त्याच्यात काय बघेल त्यातला सगळा डेटा तुम्ही उडवला चालेल.
I request everybody to mute themselves. Okay. Now B cell epitopes are from bone marrow cells. They are conformational or linear. Conformational is specific shape. B cells epitopes are mainly conformational. Specific shape of epitope will be identifying factor. There are additional epitope types where quaternary structure is considered. These are cryptotopes and neotopes. So, I don't think we need to go into much detail about this, but we have to know that there are T cell epitopes, there are B cell epitopes, there are various subtypes, and when those epitopes spread, more and more body parts are recognized as hostile and immune system acts on them. Now, third mechanism is cross activity. This property is exploited by immune system in regulation by anti-idiotypic antibodies. It was originally proposed by Nobel laureate Niels Jahn. If an antibody binds to an antigen's epitopes, it forms a paratrope. And paratrope could become an epitope for another antibody, which will then bind to it. So, first antigen antibody reaction has occurred, and the resultant complex will show an epitope to immune system. That is cross activity. And which antibody is attracted, that depends on regulation of immune response. If it is IgM class, then it will upregulate the immune response will be enhanced, whereas if it is IgG class, then binding can downregulate the immune response. So these paratropes will trigger sharp immune response, or they will pacify the immune response. So immune reaction and immune suppression both can occur due to this cross activity. Epstein-Barr virus and enterovirus these are responsible for chronic kind of autoimmunity. These viruses persist and show polyclonal activation. So they activate the immune system at multiple levels. So that is another mechanism of spreading autoimmune diseases. This is the last slide about the modern aspect of autoimmunity. History and physical examination are must. Then laboratory and imaging. In laboratory, we have complete blood count, comprehensive biochemical analysis like liver function, renal function, thyroid function, glucose metabolism, etc. Then we can search for specific antibodies, antimitochondrial antibodies, rheumatoid factor, then anti-nuclear antibodies, anti-DNA antibodies, etc. There are some non-specific indicators like CRP, complement, then immunoglobulin profile, IgM, IgG, etc., ferritin, ESR, etc. There are some optional testing, target tissue biopsy, then genetic testing specifically for HLA, B27 and also others. Then flow cytometry can give us better idea about T cells and B cells subsets like CD4, CD8, etc. Then cytokine, TNF alpha or TNF, tumor necrosing factor, then interleukin 6, which is an important cytokine indicating of immune response. We can also have imaging, X-ray, MRI, CT, and PET scan, etc. So, with all these, modern medicine will come to a diagnosis about autoimmune diseases. In Ayurveda, we can use all these techniques for better understanding, but they are additional evidence for us. We rely on dosha aushadha nirupana. So now in the next part we are going to explore the dosha nirupana. First the dosha nirupan and then aushadha nirupan. In dosha nirupan and aushadha nirupan, I am going to follow the pattern. Dushyam desham balam kalam analam prakritim vayaha satvam satmem tatha aharam avasthasya pradagvedaha doshaushadha nirupane sukshma sukshma pariksheshan doshaushadha nirupane. So we are going to see the details of all these Dushya, Desha, etc. factors. First, Dushya Vichar. Immune system is mainly composed of B cells and T cells which regulate our immune response. So bone marrow and thymus. So for bone marrow, we have to consider Rudhira and Asthimajja. For thymus, we have to consider Mausameda as a Dushya. And Dosha Vichar is Vata for Niyantrana and Shleshma. It's body's mechanism of immunity. Prakrutastu balam shleshma. Balam iti vyadhi bala virodhitvam. So we have to focus more on Vata and Kapha. Of course, when inflammatory responses are triggered, we have to consider Pitta also. So that is Dushya Vichar here. Now, Desha Vichar is divided into Bhumi Desha and Deha Desha. So, Bhumi Desha Vichar, the classification Anup, Jungle and Sadharan is in Indian context, not in global context. And what we see in autoimmune disorder spectrum, we must think in terms of tropical, temperate, or polar, or subtropical, subtemperate. These regions show different kind of behaviors, different kind of vanaspati, different kind of people. So we have to think in these terms. And essentially, Ushna and Shita regions should be focused upon. Epidemiology suggests that most autoimmune diseases are more prevalent in temperate zone or sheath region, which indicate involvement of Vata and Shleshma, because both are of Shita Guna. The exceptions are Graves' disease and Sjogren syndrome, which are more prevalent in tropical region, which is Ushna, and therefore indicates Pitta. So that is the Bhumi Desha Vichar in Dosha Nirupan. Now, Deha Desha Vichar, as we know that Nabhi, above Nabhi and below Nabhi are three regions described in Ayurveda, and the upper region of the body is Shleshma region, and the diseases involved are shown in this figure. The inner ear or neurological system, thyroid, parathyroid, rheumatic heart disease, skin, hemopoietic system, all these have predominance of kapha dosh. Now, in the middle region, we have pitta, psoriasis, vitiligo, pemphigus, other blistering diseases, AIH, primary biliary cirrhosis, autoimmune hypoparathyroidism, adrenal gland, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, all these indicate pitta dosh. Lower body parts are abode of Vata and autoimmune pancreatitis, type 1 diabetes, ulcerative colitis, atrophic gastritis, autoimmune orchitis, autoimmune oophorytis, Addison's disease. All these are Vata Pradhan Vyadhis. After Deha Desh, we have to consider Bala, and Bala which are in Dosha Nirupan, Prakrutastu Balam Shleshma Vikruto Malam Uchyate. Nidra, modifying factors of this Prakruta Shleshma are Nidrayattam Sukham Dushtam Pushtih Karsham Balabalam. So Bala is modified by Nidra. Daive Purusha Karecha Sidam Hi Asya Balabalam. So circumstances as well as behaviors by a person, responses by a person, Daiva and Purushakara both influence the Bala. Sattva Deha Balabala means Sattva Bala and Deha Bala both are important to determine whether the Vyadhi or Lakshana are important or less important. Guru Alpa Vyadhi Samsthanam. Guru is important, Alpa is lesser. Vyadhi may be, Vyadhi considers the complete disease, and Samsthana is specific signs and symptoms, and their importance or less important, the priorities are decided by Sattva Deha Bala Bala, means the mental as well as physical bala modifies the priorities of disease as well as the signs and symptoms. So drushyate api anyatha karam tasmin navahito bhavet. We have to keep this in mind, that presenting signs and symptoms may be modified by sattva bala as well as deha bala, and sometimes it happens that very small complaints are ignored, but they are important in diagnosing the disease. Is Shirashul. Many people think that Shirashul is a tool used by many people to avoid unpleasant tasks. Or school-going children complain of stomach ache to avoid going to school. That is a common observation, but so most of the times these symptoms are ignored, while they may be very important in some cases. Means sometimes that stomach ache of that school-going child might be due to appendicitis or any other severe disease, but we tend to ignore such and that should be avoided. That is what our classical texts say. So that is Bala Vichar. Then Kala Vichar, we have clear-cut indication. Vaya ahoratri bhuktanam te antamadhyadigaha kramahat. All parasites, microorganisms have their own clock, at which time they will flourish, at which time they will be dormant. The time of the day and night will decide whether it is Vata, Kapha or Pitta. The same thing is true about xenobiotics. For example, ultraviolet light is more exposure is during the day. Heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, they come under Bhukta. So in early stages they may be Kapha. Then in middle stage they will be producing Pitta, and in the end stage they will be producing Vata. Apoptosis is an activity essential for cleansing the debris during the day-to-day activity. Usually this is more prominent in night time. That's why Nidra is an important modifier of diseases. Then microbiota. For every human cell, there are more than 300 bacteria or other organisms present in our body, which help us in every task. They occur on skin, then GI tract and respiratory mucosal barrier. when we say that some disease is amashayotha, that means the environment in amashaya, the microbiota in amashaya, if they are disturbed, these kinds of diseases are produced. It is interesting to note that arthritis, which occurs in joints, and we call it as amashayodbhava vikar. So, in a project, a modern doctor was unbelieving, totally against the idea that arthritis can be caused by something in gut. But when he was shown that these gut microbiota control the HLA HLA-B genes, and these HLA-B genes are very important in pathogenesis of rheumatic arthritis. After that, he was convinced, and Ayurveda believes that most of the diseases come either from upper gastrointestinal tract or lower gastrointestinal tract, amashayodbhava and pakwashayodbhava. That is the division usually done in Ayurveda. And here again, amashayodbhava vikar predominantly kapha pradhan, pakwashayodbhava vikar predominantly vata pradhan. Pitta can associate with both, means kapha pitta vikar and vata pitta vikar. That kind of division can be seen. Nutritional factors are important, and when they are ingested, after that there is a sequence: kapha, pitta, and then vata. So the kala vichar in dosha nirupan is comparatively simple and understandable to all Ayurvedic students. Now we come to anala vichar. If we look at the mechanisms of autoimmunity, it is closely associated with Agni. Agni recognizes what is me and what is not me. Recognition of self and non-self is an important function of Agni. Vayu helps in signaling, Pitta helps in transformation, and Kapha helps in retention. But all these three are overpowered by Agni. And Agni has very specific way of functioning. And it is described very nicely in this verse. Aharam pachati shikhi, doshan ahara varjitaha pachati, dosha kshaye tu dhatun, pachati cha dhatu kshaye pranan. So initially, Agni will digest. Please, audience, please mute yourself. Aharam pachati shikhi, that means Agni is a dynamic entity. It will digest whatever is in front of it. If it is food, it will prioritize its sequence. First it will digest food, then it will digest the dosha. If there is no food and no dosha, then in that case it will digest the dhatus, bodybuilding blocks. And when those bodybuilding blocks are also gone, then that Agni will digest the prana, or the organism will die. So that is the sequence. And that's why if we want to correct the dosha imbalance, we have to control our diet. If there is no diet, then Agni will turn to doshas and discipline them and bring them to normal. So that is the rationale of Langhana. Now, Prakriti Vichar in Dosha Nirupana, mainly Vata and Kapha Prakriti are important. Staimitya Ashigra Arambha Kshobha Vikaraha, chronicity, long-term Hetu Sevan and Okasatmya are important in Shleshma. शीघ्रत्वात् शीघ्र समारंभक क्षोभ विकाराः, acute illnesses, unstable temperament, less compliant patient, these are the features of Vata dosh, Vata Prakriti. Then Vaya Vichar, again Vaya Ahoratri Bhuktanam Tenta Madhyadiga Kramat. So in childhood it is Kapha predominant, in adult age it is Pitta predominant, and in old age it is Vata predominant. So these are the diseases which show Vata features: multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, primary biliary cirrhosis, autoimmune hepatitis, Graves' disease, Sjogren's syndrome, systemic lupus erythematosus. All these have age of onset more than 20, usually more than 40. So these are Vata predominant diseases. Then celiac disease, type 1 diabetes, autoimmune hepatitis type 2, celiac disease, these are from early childhood. So they are Kapha Pradhan. Whereas Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, Addison's disease, they are Pitta Pradhan. Now we come to Sattva Vichar. In Vata dosh, patient is usually non-compliant and Alpa Sattva. In Pitta dosh, patient is irritable, intolerant and Madhya Sattva. In Kapha, patient is stoic but lazy and Pravara Sattva. Now we come to Satmya Vichar. In Vata, addictions are seen more in Vata Prakriti. There is unpredictable dose response, Vishama Agni. In Pitta, there is intolerance to many substances, allergies. Usually drug reactions and interactions are very severe, and these reactions and interactions are due to asatmya. In Kapha, there is strong tolerance, and that produces the addictions which are very deep rooted. Addictions are not easily removed in Kapha Pradhan people. Very deep rooted. Now, Ahara Vichar. I am not going into many details, only their influence on Ahara. Ahara influence on doshas. That is, I am going to elaborate here. So, rasas, swadvamla, lavana, tikta, ushana, kashayaka. These are the 6 rasas. Yatha purvam balavaha. Kashaya is least powerful and Madhura is most powerful. Bala is Vyadhi Kshamatva. And for that, this sequence is important. If the drug is madhura, it has more probability of conquering autoimmune diseases than a kashaya drug. So yatha purvam balavaha. Then tatra adyaha marutam granti tres tiktadayaha kapham. So swadu amla lavana will conquer vata, tikta ushana kashaya will conquer kapha, kashaya tikta madhuraha pittam. So kashaya tikta and madhur will conquer pitta, and rest of the rasas will cause the dosha prakop. So very simple thing which we have learned right from the first year. We should think of this sutra in choosing pathya and determining what is apathya. Then avastha vichar. There are various avasthas. Vegavastha and avegavastha. Vata dosh is important. In whichever disease there is vegavastha and avegavastha, vata dosh is important. In samavastha and niramavastha, any dosh can trigger the samprapti. Uttana and gambhir. In uttana avastha, usually single dose is predominant, whereas in gambhira avastha, tridosh or sannipat is important. Ashutar, very fast progress of disease is due to vata. Ashu, or fast progress of disease, can be due to vata, pitta or vata pitta. And chronicity, jirnatva, is can be due to vata kapha and vata kapha. So we have already seen dusha, desha, bala, kala, anala, prakriti, vaya, sattva, satmya, tatha, aharaha, avasthaha. Avasthasya prithugvedaha. So our dosha nirupan is now at the end, and now we will start with aushadha nirupana. And again we will go by the sequence, dushya, desha, balakala, etc. So dushya vichar in aushadha nirupana. The sequence, pachana or digestion of ama, srota shuddhi, cleansing of channels, agni vriddhi or deepana, then poshana and bruhana or nourishment, then regeneration, and then the regeneration of body parts or body or dhatus, and restoration of functions. So these are the points to be considered while choosing an aushadh. Traya upastamba ahara swapno brahmacharyam. These three should be maintained properly. Now, one thing not mentioned as upastamba, but nowadays it is considered as an upastamba, and that is exercise. Vyayamaha sthairya karanam. So exercise makes the body stable, less likely to be affected by disease. And that's why in autoimmune diseases also, exercise plays an important role. For Agni Vriddhi or Deepana, we should look at proper use of spices. For each dhatu, we can give different spice for Deepana. For Rasa, it is Ardraka, जीरक and ela. For rakta, dhaniya, again jeera and dalchini. For mouse, pippali, maric and lashun. For med, it is methi and mustard or rye. For asthi, tamalpatra and poog are important. For majja, जायफळ, जायपत्री and kesher are deepana for majja dhatu. Shukra, for males it is ghee and milk, and for females it is oils and udad. Now for poshana and bruhana we can use different articles. We can add something to the previous spices. For rasa we can use shatavari, vangsha or bamboo shoots. For rakta we can use kiwi or papaya in addition to the spices mentioned earlier. For mouse we can use kushmand or kohla. For med, agastya is important for nourishing proper med. Vikrut med is very harmful in autoimmune diseases. So we need to nourish proper med, and for that agastya is the food of choice. For asthi we have almonds. For majja we can use small fish and ghee. And for shukra various vajikarana preparations can be given. Now bhumi desha vichar, yasya deshasya yojantu tasya tajjam tasya aushadamitam. Try to find local ushna dravya for diseases in temperate zones. Saffron is a very good example. Try to find local Shita Dravya for diseases in tropical zones. Sandalwood is a very good example. For Deha Desha Vichar, for Shleshmik Vikar, we have Shleshmanam Vidina Yuktam Tikshnam Vamana Rechanam. Importance of Vamana and Virechana, it's great in autoimmune diseases because shodhana leads to long-term immunity. Whatever food is to be used should be ruksha, alpa, tikshnoshna, katu, tikta, kashayakam, dirgha kalasthetam madhyam, rati pritihi, prajagaraha, aneka rupo vyayamaha, चिंता रुक्षम विमर्दनम विशेषाद वमनम यूषः क्षौद्रम मेदोघ्नम औषधम धूमोपवास गंडूषः निस्सुखत्वम सुखाय च. That is the upakram of vata, upakram of kapha. Most controversial of that is dhuma. That's why it is highlighted in this slide. Here dhuma is not tobacco smoke but aushadhi dhuma, which is used after vamana for shesha dosha nirharan. That kind of dhuma or bruhana kind of dhuma, shamana dhuma can be used. For pitta, pittasa sarpishaspanam, swadushitair virejanam, swadutikta kashayani, bhojanani, aushadani cha. I am not going to quote the full upakrama. Saumya bhavaha paya sarpihi virekascha visheshata. Everything should be saumya. milk, ghee and virechana are important in treatment of Pitta-janya autoimmune diseases. For Vata, Vatasya upakramah sneha swedas sanshodhanam mrudu sadvam lalavan ushnani. We all know these things. Important is how we choose them. For example, Veshtana is more important in arthritis. Trasana is more important in Unmada Pasmar. Seka is more important in diseases producing local pain or local edema. Choice of Madhya depends on the affinity to Madhya. If the patient is alcoholic, then we have to choose appropriate Madhya. Madhya is very Tikshna Virya and therefore it can reach any part of the body, and that's why it is used as a vehicle in our preparations in asavas and aristas. So when we are choosing asava and arista, we should look at the ingredients. If it has jaggery or any flours involved in the preparation, then it can be used in Vata Prakopa. Snigdha Ushna Bastayaha Basti Niyamaha Sukhashilata. So Basti is the most proper treatment, and Deepanaihi Pachanai Siddhaha Snehascha Aneka Yonayaha Visheshat Medyapishita Rasa Taila Anuvasanam. So Anuvasan here it's Madhya Pishita Rasa Taila. Medya Pishita Rasa. So non-veg kind of Anuvasan is preferable in Vata dosha. Now we come to Bala Vichar. For that Agni Deepana Poshana. After Poshana there is Rasayana and Vajikarana. Agni Vriddhi or Deepana we have already seen. Proper use of spices. This is a repeat slide. Again I repeat. For Rasa it is Ardraka, Jiraka, Ela. For Rakta, Dhanyaka, Jiraka, Tvak. For Mausa, it is Maricha and Pippali and Rason. For Meda, Methi and Rai. For Asthi, Tamalapatra and Puga. For Majja, Nutmeg or Jaipatri or Jaipar and saffron. And for Shukra, for males, ghee and milk. And for females, oils and urud. This is again a repeat slide. I need not go into more details because they are already been elaborated. Now we come to Kala Vichar in Aushadha Nirupan. Kala Vichar is in Aushadha Nirupan mainly concerns the Aushadhi Sevana Kal. So Kafodreke Gade Anannam Balino Roga Rogino. So disease is also powerful, means serious disease, but the patient is strong and Kapha is the predominant dosha. In that case, we have to use Ananna Aushadhi Sevan Kal. Then in Vata dosha, Annadau Vigune Apane. If Apana Vayu is disturbed, then we have to use the drug before the meals. Samane Madhyeshyate means at half the meal is eaten, then the drug, and then the remaining part of the meal should be eaten. Vyane ante pratarashasya. In Vyana Vayu, it should be before at the end of the lunch. Whereas Sayamashasya tu uttare means udane. Sayamasha means dinner. So for udana, it is after dinner. Grasa grasantayoho prane means in prana, for each bite or each portion of food which we ingest should be medicated. Visha, Chardi, Hidma, Trishna, Shwas and Kas require frequent administration of drug. Yojam, Sabhojam, Bhaishajam, Bhojjaish, Chitraihi, Arochake. When patient does not feel any desire to consume food, he should be given food which is chitra, attractive, different preparations, different menu should be chosen which will attract the patient, and the drug should be given through that vehicle. Nowadays, patients prefer smoothie. Then we can add our medicated leaves in the smoothie. That kind of Aushadhi Sevan Kal we can use. Kampa Akshepa Hidmasu Samudgam Laghu Bojinam. So Kampa, Akshepaka and Hidma, we need to encapsulate the meal on both sides, means before and after food. So it is called as Samudga. That meal should also be very laghu, easily digestible, and it should be preceded by the drug and followed by the drug. Urdhva Chaturvikareshu Swapna Kale Prashasyate. Most of the portions in the upper body or head and neck get congested during night. So before sleeping, if the drug is given, it keeps the things normal. So that is the Kala Vichar in Aushadha Nirupan. Now, Annala Vichar, for Mandagni it is Langhana, for Tikshnagni, Guru and Shita, for Vishamagni, regularity in diet times and items, both is very important in treating Vishamagni. Now, Prakriti Vichar is important in selection of drug, selection of Sevan Kal, selection of Kalpana, and the main directive is Kafam Durjanavat Tikshnaihi Vatam Snehena Mitravat Pittam Jamataramiva Maduraihi Sheetalaihi Jayet. So for Kapha, we can use harsh treatments, severe or strong drugs. For Vata, we have to force the patient into compliance by friendly behavior. Our drugs should be user friendly. They should include sneha, either Ghrutta, Taila, Vasamajja, whatever sneha we are going to use. For Pitta, it is like a demanding son-in-law. And for that, we should keep cool and use sweetness to conquer this Pitta. Now, Vaya Vichar, in any disease which has onset before 15 is Kapha Pradhan, Parama Aushadha is Madhu, Gana for Kapha Vikar we have Aragvadhadi, Arkadi, Mushkakadi, Asanadi, Surasadi, Mustadi, Vatsakadi. All these ganas can be used, and Shodhana should be Mrudu if the patient is Arha or eligible. It should be Mrudu. Vamana is contraindicated in this age group. Even though it is the best medicine for Kapha, it is contraindicated in this age group. If vomiting occurs naturally, it should be ignored. But the procedure of choice is Virachanus, not full-fledged Virachana, but Anulomana at the most Srausana. Bhedan and Virachan should not be used in this age group. We can use Nasya and Jalauka Charan. In Pitta group, Pitta age group, the Parama Aushadha is Ghrutta, and we have these drugs Purva, Ananta, Nimba, Vasa, Atmagupta, Gundra, Bhiru, Shitapaki, Priyangu, Nagrodhadi, Padmakadi, Stiredve, Padmam, Vanyam, Sarivadishcha, Pittam. So these drugs conquer Pitta. Shodhana should be Pravara in this age group. Predominantly Virachana, but also Vamana. Rakta Moksha can be used extensively in these cases. In above 40 group or Vata group, the Paramaushadha is Taila, and the Kashaya which should be used for Anupana are Bhadradaru, Natam, Kushtam, Dashamulam, Baladvayam, Vayum, Virataradishcha, Vidaryadishcha, Nashe. So, Shodhana should be Mrudu in such cases, and Pradhana Upakrama is Basti. Visha and Sannipata are beyond considerations of age, and here Ghrutta is the Paramaushad. Anjanadi, Patola Katurohinyadi, Aragvadhadi, Rodhradi, Arkadi, Eladi and Shamadi are the ganas which can be used according to the dosha. Means Patol Katurohinyadi for Kapha with like that. The full Panchakarma is needed in Visha and Sannipat. Now Sattva Vichar. In Alpa Sattva, ensure support system, user-friendly environment, avoid harsh treatments. In Madhya Sattva, non-threatening approach, conquer with love and sweetness. In Pravara Sattva, transparency is important. Complete information should be given to the patient. Now, Desha Vishesheshu Satmya Vishesha Udaharanani. For every region, there are some items which are Satmya for that particular country or Bhumidesh. Dati Kshira Kariram Maruvasishu क्षारः प्राच्येषु मत्स्यास्तु सैन्धवेषु अश्मकेषु तु तैलाम्ल कन्नमूलानि मलये कोङ्कणे पुनः पेयामन्थ उदीच्येषु गोधूमो अवन्ति भूमिषु बाल्लिका बाल्लवाश्चीनाः शूलिका यवनाः शकाः मांस गोधूम मार्द्विक शस्त्र वैश्वानरोचिताः. Means Agni Karma can be easily done in these localities. Now we come to Satme Vichar in Aushadha Nirupan. We should start with Rasiyasi Matra always by using test dose. Asatmya should be conquered with Teshu Ashu Kuryat Samshuddhim. Panchakarma is important. Shamam va tad virodhivihi. Dravyastairev va purvam sharirasya abhisanskritihi. Anticipatory or preventive dosing. If a person is suffering from specific disease and it has periodicity, in that case we should prepare the body in between the episodes, and that is an important principle of conquering asatme. Padanshena tyajet satmyam ahitam hitam acharet. Satmyam ahitam, oka satmya, addictions. In that case, padanshena tyajet satmyam ahitam hitam acharet ekantaram tataschordvam dvantaram tryantaram tatha. We have to plan a long-term treatment with sequential change from asatmya to satmya. Now we come to avastha vichar. In vega avastha, we should use rapid acting drugs and roots like sublingual root or basti. In avega avastha, food is the best medicine. In samavastha, pachana, dipana and langhana are the mainstays of treatment. In niramavastha, shamana chikitsa first and then shodhana. In Uttana and Gambhira, choice of root is different. Usually in Uttana we have to do Bahya Upachar, whereas in Gambhira we have to use all kinds of drug roots. In Ashutara Avastha, Pratyakhya Chikitsa is to be done. Pratyakhya means telling or informing the relatives as well as the authorities that the patient is in dire conditions. Akriyayam dhruvo mrityuhu kriyayam samshayo bhavet. If we don't treat, patient is sure to die. If we treat, there are chances of survival but no guarantees. That kind of information given to relatives as well as authorities is called as pratyakhya. So in ashutara condition, pratyakhya should be done and patient should be given emergency life support, ICU, etc. In ashu avastha, we can use sadhyo vaman, sadhyo virechan, niruha or matra basti. In Jirna Avastha, Vidhivat Panchakarma should be done. So that is Avastha Vichar in Aushadha Nirupan. So thank you for patient listening. If there are any questions, I am open to answer.
Thank you very much, sir, for this elaborative session on Dosha Aushadha Nirupan. It was in simple language If anybody is having question, you may ask in chat box or with directly mic.
हेलो सर।
हेलो
सर धातुओं के अनुसार जो आपने जो ड्रग्स बताए वो तीपन पाचन ऐसे, तो वो लाइक उसका कोई ग्रंथों का संदर्भ है या इट इज लाइक अनुभव किया?
I'm not able to understand your question. Will you please type it
धातु
in?
अनुसार जैसे रस धातु के लिए आपने रस धातु के लिए जैसे जीरक या फिर रक्त धातु के लिए धान्य, ऐसा जो आपने बताया है ना सर, वो आपका अनुभविक है या उसका ग्रंथों का संदर्भ है, ऐसा मैं पूछ रही
वैसे हरितक वर्ग या स्पाइसेस are described in Charak Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, in many details in Nigantus also. So this is both from compilation as well as from experience.
ओके सर। सो लाइक यूजुअली इसको चूर्ण के स्वरूप में देंगे या कार्य के इसमें ऐसे कि लाइक डायरेक्टली वी कैन यूज इट?
उनका इस्तेमाल आप फूड में कर सकते हैं, उसका अर्क बना के एज ए ट्रीटमेंट दे सकते हैं।
ओके, विविध प्रकार से
मेडिसिन। तो इफ यू यूज those spices predominantly in the preparations, they will help.
Okay sir, thank you.
Yeah. Now there is one question: to which guna among sharir guna the phenomenon of self killing can be attributed? Now here the तीक्ष्ण, then vyavayi, vikasi, ruksha, khara, these gunas are important. Another question is there: what is the difference between RA positive and autoimmune RA positive? No, RA positive is RA positive. RA factor itself is autoantibody. Any other questions? So, Chinmay, should I stop?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can conclude this session.
Okay, thank
Sir,
you very much for patient listening.
Sir, can you please share your mail ID or WhatsApp number, like if you have any queries later on, like after
Okay. Okay, I'll just. Okay, it is in the chat box.
We'll conclude this session.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, it is not visible, sir.
I see it on my screen.
Or you can just tell him, sir. We'll write into it.
It's zoglekar.vp@gmail.com.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for patient listening. I will now leave the session.
Thank you, sir.